Hello and welcome to the President's Podcast right here on the record with the Ohio Senate. The views the news excludes. I'm John Fortney, the Director of Communication with the Senate Republican Caucus, the Majority Caucus in the Ohio Senate. Great to have on a former Ohio Senator, current United States Congressman Troy Balderson from Zanesville, the great 12th District of Ohio. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, John. Appreciate this.
And also, big congratulations on getting the Grid Power Act through. The Grid Power Act passed 216 to 206 in a hyper-partisan world of politics, and it's all about bringing reliable power quicker to the market.
Yes. The Grid Power Act is a piece of legislation that we introduced last Congress about a month and a half before the Congress closed. Closed being we shut the end of the year. So to get the conversations going, we've been working on this piece of legislation now for probably 3 years total. So we were happy to get it passed out of the House. Look forward to it moving in the Senate. It does have companion legislation in the Senate under Todd Young and John Holvin. And as you just said, with the passage of that, we did have bipartisan support. So we did have some Democrats that realized the situation that we are in and also voted for the piece of legislation.
It's actually called Grid, guaranteeing reliability through the Interconnection of Dispatchable Power Act. Is this about American energy independence?
It is part of that energy independence, but here's what we're dealing with right now, and it's getting that power distributed. Our RTOs, which are located throughout the country, our RTO happens to be PJM, which covers 13 states. Ohio is one of those states that covers. And there has been significant amounts of power that have been shut off. Baseload energy.
Just off, gone forever.
Gone forever. It'll never come back.
In fact, I think I was doing some research. I think it was 11,000 megawatts.
11,000
never
megawatts.
to return again unless we actually make it.
Exactly. And we are making it. Now we need to make sure and give these RTOs the ability to get that power out. So we started looking at this. We were having conversations, with the state PUCO, with Chairwoman French, also working with the state legislature. And I know that you and I are going to talk a little bit about what the state legislature passed with House Bill 15 and the pluses for that. But when we were doing this legislation, this was about the federal side of it and working with FERC and working with the RTOs and allowing the states to do what they need to do. Obviously, I'm a states rights-driven person, so but this interconnection queue is 97% plugged. That means, so just look at your drain is a good example. And projects are sitting in there and have been sitting in there for 5 to 8 years.
Would it be reasonable to say that the majority of those projects probably were alternative power, not necessarily reliable power?
It's a great insight on your part and a great question. Yes, it was predominantly renewable projects. Again, we all politicians talk about it. We talk about it. We want to be all of the above. Yes, we do want to be all of the above, but we have to have that base load energy, that dispatchable power, natural gas, nuclear, coal. We look at these things having that base load energy. There is a place for the renewable piece coming in on peak or off peak demand times, but the reason that we did this legislation was to get dispatchable power out quick and giving them the ability. I mean, it's gotten to a place now where FERC actually came out, it's probably been 3 months ago now, that said, look, we're going to allocate and fast track 50 projects because we know the need for power that's out there. They took applications for fast tracking projects. 94 applications were submitted. They took 54. Now, some of those that were accepted in that package of the 54, there was some renewable projects in there that are far enough along that they felt that they could get started with. So, but the bulk of it, over 50 of them, were dispatchable power of their baseload energy.
Reliable, affordable, and also accountable power. Ohio is well positioned as far as the Marcellus and Utica Shale on natural gas. How big of a factor can this be to helping replace and maybe get more than 11,000 megawatts back online?
It's very feasible. And you brought up something with the Marcellus piece, and I've had people come into the office from an energy background standpoint that say between the western portion of Pennsylvania, the panhandle western portion of West Virginia, and southeastern Ohio, 40% of the natural gas will come right from here. We're going to be bigger than the Permian Basin. You don't hear that conversation, especially out of Ohio.
Bigger than Texas, right?
Bigger than Texas. So, sorry, Texans, but we got you, and we're going to continue to do that. So, I'm excited about this, and we'll go back to the state legislature and what they did, but getting this power out is the main priority.
So the amount of time it actually took, you talked about that log jam there. The pipe was basically clogged, and it took approximately on average how long to get something online versus what the Grid Power Act, what is your hope?
So our hope is currently right now, the interconnection queue was 5 to 8 years. We want to get that down to a year.
It was 5 to 8 years?
It was 5 to 8 years is how long it's taking for these projects.
Well, there could be rolling blackouts around the country if it took 5 to 8 years.
I think that you already seen rolling blackouts throughout this country. I mean, how many times has the state of Ohio been notified that, hey, conserve energy right now? We don't know if we're going to have enough. So it's happened several times here in the last several years. So it's a huge concern. But getting this done and get these projects moving within that year time frame is our goal.
Does it help that we have a new law in Ohio? It started out as Senate Bill 2, and then the bill that was passed was House Bill 15. And I was stunned that in such a polarized political world at the time, that this bill actually capitalized and leveraged the natural gas supply in Ohio to try to develop a 21st century forward-looking energy plan, and it passed unanimously in the Senate Bill 2, and I thought, what's going on here? I mean, even the other side of the aisle recognized the power problem.
They do, and everyone does. I mean, this can be made very nonpartisan politics. That this is about representing the constituents that we serve. And I was so excited when I did see that it did pass full majority out of the Senate, 33 votes. That rarely happens, as you and I both know. Myself, having served in the state legislature, the Ohio Senate in the past.
But you were energy chair, weren't you?
I was. Yeah. So, this is a piece of legislation. I'm excited about it because, again, Ohio can stand on its own. And there's a lot of conversations now about behind the meter. Ohio's legislation gave the ability for that behind the meter, and we can start moving more quickly, more efficiently to that. We have right here in Licking County, where we are this morning, we have one project right now that's behind the meter that's started already.
And explain behind the meter.
So it's not on the power's not actually on the grid. So it's an AI facility here that's actually resourcing its own power, and they have signed a contract, with a natural gas producer. That natural gas producer is going to get that power to that facility. So I think you're going to see more of this as we work. There's potential for another project here in Licking County. I kind of got a little ahead of myself this morning at the manufacturing. I said there were two. One's official. The second one is being worked on.
Breaking news, everyone. Follow up with the President's podcast on that.
This is look what happened in New York. I mean, Microsoft. I mean, these AI that are using the bulk of this energy are buying their own power supply. Microsoft bought 3 Mile Island and is reopening that now. That will be their nuclear supply.
That's their power
That's
plant.
going to be their power plant, and it will continue to move forward with that. Other things that have happened, not only in the state of Ohio, have been towards behind the meter. So it will help us, our constituents.
Our consumers. Because it's one thing to have big producers, right? AI, data centers, whatever it is, have their own baseload power, right? That helps protect the grid, but doesn't that also help protect the consumer as we bring more megawatts online?
Absolutely. And Bob and Betty Buckeye will start seeing those electricity prices go down as we move forward.
Talk to me a little bit about what you are the chairman of HEAT.
HEAT, yes.
The House Energy Action Team. Who's on that, and what is the goal, the mission of HEAT?
The HEAT, let me give a little history on HEAT before I get into what the goal would be. But HEAT started, the House Energy Action Team started under the direction of now leader Steve Scalise. And his initial reasoning for that was to get the Republican conference on the same page, and it was to bring in stakeholders to have conversations with members of Congress from the Republican conference. We will take Democrats, but it's predominantly Republican conference, to hear out those stakeholders and hear what their needs are. Because members of Congress sometimes look, we deal with many, many things. And those of us that are hyper-focused on energy needs and issues like myself and my staff, it's important that we know what the stakeholders have to say. A lot of them talk about permitting, and that's something that we can get into, but permitting reform. But heat has been great. Now, heat has moved forward. It is now under the umbrella of RSC, which is the Republican Study Committee. The Republican Study Committee is the largest conservative caucus in the Republican conference. A lot of C's right there. So we have brought the heat under that umbrella. So I now chair. August Pfluger out of Texas is the chair of the RSC. And we just thought, let's bring this in under the RSC umbrella. Our membership will go up, and we are now up to 72 members of heat, those coming from RSC. So we've had stakeholders come in. We've had Google. We've had several, that are here located in the 12th congressional district right now come in and talk to, members. The other thing that's important is staff plays a big role in a congressional office. We have now taken it to the next level and include staff. We'll do stakeholder meetings for staff. We did a natural gas 101 2 or 3 months ago. We did one for nuclear a month ago. But bringing the staff in so they have an understanding when they sit down and have the conversation or the meeting that the member's tied up. So we're trying to include everybody here so we're all on the same page and we have an understanding of that.
It's hard to believe that when the world that we live in today, at least in the political environment, seems to continue to be so polarized that when everybody, you would think, would agree that if we're forecasting a power shortage, nobody wants rolling blackouts in the dead of winter or in the peak of summertime, that's for sure. But of the Ohio delegation on the Grid Power Act, every single Democrat congressman in Ohio voted against it. Beatty, Sykes, Landsman, Capter, and also Shontel Brown all voted against it. There were, as you said, some Democrats. It was 216 to 206 in the House. But there seems to be those who just can't let go of sort of a radical belief that we can exist on windmills and sunshine and daisies in Ohio and around the country. I mean, is there still a palpable threat toward the natural gas, oil and gas industry in general? And I will remind everyone that even the United Kingdom, as far left and liberal as the UK is, a couple years ago came out and said, natural gas is clean energy. I mean, how big are you concerned about those? Because even in Ohio, in Southeast Ohio, there's an organization that takes money out of 4 different groups of California with the sole goal of shutting down the oil and gas industry any way they can.
From a congressional standpoint and dealing with other members, predominantly with the Ohio delegation, one of those Democrat members sits on the Energy and Commerce Committee with me, so I knew he was going to be a no all the way. The ranking member of that committee is from New Jersey, Frank Pallone. So it's going to be very challenging for that member to vote for this piece of legislation. So, John, I just, look, I always try to be respectful, but I just think sometimes we fall short of, there was rationale behind the Grid Power Act. This does not pick and choose winners. There's nothing negative about renewable in that piece of legislation. There's nothing that it says it all has to be fossil fuel power. This legislation included, as we say, all of the above. It's all about getting that dispatchable power out there. So was there disappointment? There was. But everyone needs to do what they need to do. The Democrats that did vote for it, I did communicate with several of those. One of those Democrats was from Texas. One was from North Carolina. North Carolina is also dealing with some power issues and what's going on down there. The other Democrat was from Maine, who I have a friendship with, and he understands it. The other Democrat that voted for it, I'm also cordial with her. We communicate sometimes, but she's out of Washington State. Big power issue. Now they're predominantly hydropower. I didn't say anything negative about hydropower and the Grid Power Act. So I think, and let's go back to the heat piece a little bit. Having the staff communicate to their members when they have meetings, when the member is in a committee hearing or on the floor voting or whatever it may be, in another meeting, why we included staff in our heat sessions is so that staffer has an understanding. So, look, we're going to keep promoting this legislation. As we said earlier in the podcast here, it does have Senate leadership. I feel that we will get Senate Democrats on board with this. Let's go back to the CRA that we did last Congress, the Congressional Review Act that I led on the House side that was going to reverse the Biden policies, energy policies, for the Clean Power Plan 2.0. Shelley Capito was the ranking member out of West Virginia. And we knew we were shutting off this power too quick. Now, I don't know if we want to add this in here or not, but publicly, while he was running for re-election, Sherrod Brown said he was supportive of this CRA. So that tells you people when you need to know they understand what the policy means, and we as members of Congress just got to dig in a little bit deeper. But Sherrod Brown came out in support of the Clean Power Plan 2.0 Congressional Review Act, which said, time out. We're shutting off our baseload energy too quick. 11,000 megawatts is the number in the state that Sherrod represented.
Well, it's not only about keeping the lights on and the heat on and the AC running as well, but this really gets down to being, at a basic level, a national security issue, isn't it?
It is. You're spot on. And you know what? A lot of members in Congress will say that it is the number one issue for this is a national security issue. And it is. It truly is. To me, I go a little bit different, and I say it's my constituents and the cost of electricity. It's my manufacturing facilities for the cost of electricity. But again, it's like everything. It's all the above. But the national security issue is a huge one, and we need to protect that.
Is that also part of the thinking? Because I saw there was a bill introduced, it might have been your bill, that basically would codify part of President Trump's executive order that would try to address states that might be far to the left on their majorities in their legislatures and their executive branch, trying to get around and try to unravel or undermine natural gas around the country and the energy plan.
Yeah, and we worked with the administration when they were drafting this executive order, took some of the language out of the Grid Power Act to put in that executive order. So they knew what we were doing. They've been following it the whole way through. So we made sure that we did get that language codified.
I would think it would really be a tall task, if not a tall tale, for so-called environmental groups, far left individuals that are on the radical side of the energy issue, to think that oil and gas is going away in any way, shape, or form, especially in the Midwest, because as our energy chair in the state Senate, Brian Chavez, talked about on a previous podcast, sort of what you alluded to, if you put Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania all together, it would be the third largest producer of energy in the world.
Yes. Look, and we're doing our best to, I don't want to use the word educate, but just explain what fossil fuel is. I mean, the phones that you and I are holding in our hand or could be holding in our hand right now came from fossil fuel. Yeah. The microphones that we're talking into came from fossil fuel. I mean, it's in our everyday lives. It's not going to go away. It's never going to go away.
It reminds me of that great line if you watch the Amazon series, the series on Amazon with Billy Bob Thornton, Landman.
Oh, Landman, yeah.
Have you seen that? Where he's explaining to the company lawyer, it's in everything. And if you don't like it, you go ahead and sell that Mercedes and pitch a tent, but you might want to bring a coat because I hear the moral high ground gets pretty windy at night.
Yeah, that was a great quote. I forgot about that quote. But I just, it's... We have become good stewards with what we're doing, and Republicans don't take credit for some of the good things that we're doing.
Well, can't you protect the environment? Everybody wants clean water and air,
absolutely.
Right? But that's part of the radicalized narrative of the left that doesn't like oil and gas and natural gas and affordable clean energy. It's all about poisoning everybody.
Yeah, and the fear tactics. I mean, look, it's with a lot of things. But again, look, we have reduced our carbon emissions by 30% in this country, more than the whole world combined.
Yeah. The Paris Accord and all that. Listen, you want to talk about cleaning up the globe? Talk to Russia. Talk to China. This country, since the 70s, has done way more than any other country.
And we will continue to do that as China is building numerous coal plants every week, not every month, every week. There's no regulatory burden on them. There's no cost of burden. I mean, it's all being done on a weekly basis. And that goes back to your point of national security. They're getting ahead of us, and we can't let China get ahead of us. That's important.
One thing I want to just to shift gears for a moment. We talked a little bit earlier about on national security issues that both sides of the aisle can reasonably agree on issues and how to act and what we need to do. And some Democrats voted for the Grid Power Act. Hopefully that will also be the case in the Senate. But it seems like we're back, to it's either Trump derangement syndrome and we're Democrats and we're going to try to do anything we can just to say no and take our ball and go home. While the Republicans are saying on the budget right now, just pass a continuing resolution. And as we're recording this here at the campus of Ohio State, Newark, the Newark branch of Ohio State University today, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what you were talking about during your address. But what's going on with the budget? I mean, is it just we're taking our ball and going home if we're Schumer Democrats? Or what's your message to constituents about this whole budget shutdown again?
So my message this morning was quite interesting, and I tell them to turn the TV off. It sometimes gets made for TV. But look, this is something, we don't like CRs. Republicans or Democrats don't like CRs. I voted no for CRs before. It's continuing resolution. It's Congress needs to get their appropriation bills done and passed. We have hit a point where we weren't quite done. We've gotten more appropriations bills done. And this Congress, since I've been here, the Senate has also moved forward on passing some of their appropriations. We're not to the finish line yet. So what Speaker Johnson, what the Trump administration, what Leader Thune said, let's do a continuing resolution till November 21st. Let's keep the government funded. Let's keep the lights going. Let's keep everybody working until we get these appropriations bills done. We will get those done by that November 1st timeframe. That's the goal. Now, hopefully that can be done by November 21st. My message is to my constituents, who I am fortunate enough to represent, is keep doing what you do every day. Keep making sure that you employ people. If you're a small business manufacturer, if you're a small business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, employ people. Make sure that the constituents that I represent, that my office represents, have the ability to go get a job, make a paycheck, put food on the table, and provide for their families. That's the top message that we say, and one of the messages this morning. I feel it's a really unfortunate situation. The Democrats have voted for the last 13 CRs. Why now all of a sudden?
It's all politics. They're scrambling to try to get traction on something because they seem to be embracing the 20% instead of the 80%, because wouldn't you agree right now the economy's strong? Seems like the markets are doing really well. There's always a niche here or a niche there. It has some issues, but overall, it seems like people have confidence in the economy again.
They do, and I'll speak for the 12th Congressional District. As we travel around, we had our whole August work month. We went and did business roundtables. We went to manufacturing facilities. We went to small businesses. We communicated with them. We still communicate with them. They have my cell phone. I call them. I call CEOs. I call the small business owner of a little mom and pop shop and say, what's going on? How's it going? So we're discussing those issues. But, for the most part, people are good with where this economy is right now. And that's what we want to keep moving forward with. By shutting down the government, again, it's the wrong time. It's not for good reason. That's the hard part. And you've hit that. It's purely political, and it gives them, the Democrats, something to have a conversation about. But I think in the end, as with all government shutdowns, it will end. When will it end? I can't give you that prediction yet. But it was interesting, as you and I are taping this, the final vote was last night, and 3 Senate Democrats voted for this, 2 independents and Mr. Fetterman out of West Virginia. So they basically need 3 more Democrats to vote for this thing. Yeah. And I think the longer it goes, the more pressure will be put on them.
Well, I can also imagine the political pressure they're getting from the base, the far left of their party. And I mean, that's a real thing, but at some point you have to stand up for what's right in your district, right? For what's right in your state. Yeah. Couple questions before I let you go. What was your message, and I guess maybe to step back, the importance of having the availability of branch campuses like the one in Newark for Ohio State and the Central Ohio Technical College, as we seem to be making more things here at home, and we need a skilled, trained workforce that's ready to go on day one.
We do. This is a great facility. You said, John, the Ohio State University, and COTC. They've been in this community for a long time. Their leadership here is strong. They're involved in the community also. My son went here. It is a very valuable source for kids to go, not have excessive college debt when they're done. They can do a 2-year program here, and they can go to the main campus. Central Ohio Technical College does the same thing. You can take that 2-year degree and move forward anywhere you want to go and make a great living. You and I talked a little bit before we went on. I went to Olentangy High School workforce space yesterday. We got to start communicating with these kids in 7th grade. I mean, now is when the conversation has to happen. So when they get to this level, they're going to have some idea. Now, you and I were both in the state Senate years ago. We passed some great legislation that did classes for work ready. We had the college access, college credit plus program that we initiated back in the state legislature that gave the ability for these kids in high school to come to these campuses and to start taking classes for that preparedness. So you've eliminated that. You had students that were eliminating 1 year of college already while they were still a junior and senior in high school. So these are what do this. It's a beautiful facility. And the main part about this is the community's engaged with it. This is fully supported by Licking County and surrounding counties, but Licking County, they take great pride in this facility.
Yeah, Ohio really does have a lot going for it in higher education, without a doubt, and great places to live and call home, right? Final thought, after what we have witnessed over the last couple of weeks on the 24th, right before the 24th remembrance of 9/11, we had the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the radicalized nature of where we are. A lot of people would like you to believe that the country is completely divided. I guess, what is your message about not only the district that you represent, but about the people in the district, and your message to the people of the great state of Ohio about the polarized nature and ongoing, often just, I can't believe what I'm listening to sometimes on television, commentary about good people and trying to cancel free speech?
Look, the level needs to be turned down. We've been saying that for years. So I take it upon myself to be the person that does turn it down. My office wants it turned down. We don't get ahead of ourselves. We don't have the rhetoric. We don't push out a negative narrative at all. We don't go around the district and be negative about, our opposing partners or our people that oppose what maybe we believe in. But to have those conversations. I took the opportunity. It was interesting at a Coshocton event on a Sunday evening, and talked to a couple people that did not have the same thoughts or ideas. But what was important to me and to them also at the end of our conversation was the ability to have that conversation. And that's what we had to do. And that's what Charlie Kirk did. He had the conversation. We don't do that anymore. We hide behind a keyboard now, and you can say some really mean and hateful things. And that's not what social media was for. Unfortunately, that's what it's become. So I encourage my colleagues, I encourage anyone in local, the township trustee, all the way up to the federal Congress, to turn the rhetoric down, work for the constituents that you represent. They're not going to agree with you on everything. And look, I'm a Republican. I have Republicans that don't agree with me on some of the things that I might believe in. But what's Ronald Reagan's favorite one of his biggest quotes was, "If you're with me 80% of the time, that's a good thing." So that's what our office is going to stay focused on. We're going to work for the people of the 12th Congressional District.
Ohio Congressman Troy Balderson, Republican from the 12th District, Zanesville area. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate
Thank you, John.
Perspective and insight as always.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.